911 dispatch. Is Nightingale available?
And as I had it out, my cell phone rang, and it was the police officer. And he asked me to pull over at a shopping center, and he would meet me there. When I asked if she was alive, he would not respond. And I was refusing to go to the scene, and so he said, well, I'll call and let them know you're not coming. I knew that I could not go to the scene and, you know, see my daughter if she was not alive. When he hung up the phone, he said, I have some good news for you. And I said, what is that? And he said, they saw her hand move and the Nightingale is on the way. Of course, when he said the Nightingale had been called, I began to just pray. And I knew that if we waited for anything else to get her anywhere, you know, it would take longer. And just having heard about the Nightingale, never really having had experience with them, but I just thought, oh yes, I'm glad they'll get her there.
It took a while to believe it was real.
Getting her to medical attention faster was definitely part of saving her life, because immediately she was getting the specialized care and all that she needed. I don't know what it would be like not to have them. I truly support them in any way possible.
He was working on the interstate, and he was changing the lights, and he looked up and saw a board coming towards him off the back of a truck. And he tried to move out of the way, and it hit him. The pelvis went like this, all the bones. His spine was floating free. He was bleeding to death internally because no blood was coming out. It was just bleeding to, they could not stop the bleeding. The doctor described it as taking a cracker and just crumbling it like that. He just said there was so much damage that he would die from bleeding to death pretty soon. He was afraid that he was going to die probably within an hour. That's why they were calling the Nightingale, because that was the fastest way to get him to Norfolk General. And I keep thinking about how he said, how he said, tell Karen I love her. What can you say to him? Thank you's not good enough. God bless you, that's what I would say to him.
Stepped off the ladder, and as I did, one of the two oaks shifted and caught me, and that's when I fell. I landed on my head on a concrete slab.
So I was home with the kids schooling. My mother-in-law worked in the office, which was in our home. And we each got a phone call from someone else telling us that Ronnie had fallen. So we actually both thought, well, he broke his leg or something. Let's just get over to the hospital. And his dad called back and said Nightingale has picked him up. And that's when we realized the seriousness of it, that it wasn't just a broken leg. Well, once we got to the hospital, we saw him all wired up and everything, and the doctor, it was a traumatic brain injury, and they didn't know if he would survive.
Absolutely, Nightingale saved my life. There ain't no doubt about that.
I hear this very funny noise, and I went upstairs, and he was on the bed in our spare room in a cold sweat. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, I got scared, and I ran through the bathroom into our room and called 911. So sure enough, and he says, we have to call Nightingale. And I said, whatever.
I knew exactly what kind of trouble he was in. You know,
I'm a nurse. I know that kind of thing. And my mother told me that they told her to say goodbye to him before he left on the helicopter, that he may not make it. I know the crew of the Nightingale are #1. And I knew that if anybody, he was in very good hands. If anybody could help him, the crew of the Nightingale could help him.
I don't remember the trip, but I remember landing at the helipad at the hospital. And I remember looking out the window, just had to turn my head a bit, and my 2 sons were out there. I recognized them right away, so, oh, great, you know.
He can do that now. We've been married 64 years. And when he was so bad, I kept thinking he's not going to go, because we made a pact. When he's going, I'm going, and I was not ready. So I figured that he wasn't going to go, and I wasn't going to let him. And Nightingale didn't either.
You know, it was the day before Thanksgiving, and Dad was cutting the grass. He was off that day. We were all gonna go to my sister's in North Carolina for the weekend, and he just started feeling something wasn't right. And I had been at a meeting at Beach General, and I got a phone call from my mom, and she said Dad was having a heart attack and they were taking him to the hospital. The cardiologist here got on the phone with the doctor there, and while they were on the phone, Dad, his heart stopped. And they had to paddle him to bring him back, and then it happened again, and they brought him back again. And really, we thought we were gonna lose him. But fortunately, Dr. Stein wanted to see if they could get Nightingale to get him to Norfolk. He's the one person that I just can't imagine not being here. And I think that was part of what was really hard that day, was the fact that there was a good chance he wasn't going to be here. And he wasn't going to see my children grow up. I hope our family never needs it again. But I can tell you, I'm sure glad that we had it. And, you know, we credit Nightingale with saving his life. If I can give a little bit to help, and what I can give puts 5 more minutes of fuel in Nightingale to get somebody's family member in, it's worth it.
At the end of the day, when people, they think about Nightingale because they realize they can go other places. They can go to the Eastern Shore. They can go to the Outer Banks, Sandbridge. If they got ill or injured, they know they have a vehicle that can rapidly transport them to a tertiary hospital, and that's Nightingale. I don't think that anyone is immune. I don't think anyone should say that, well, I don't have a stake in this. We all have a stake in it, and we have all benefited from Nightingale.